Ever since the early days of the internet, there always have been figures whose behavior is so bizarre it's almost impossible to believe. But only a few are so disturbing that the internet keeps talking about them even long after they've disappeared from the spotlight. Meet Daniel Robert Larson, a man so delusional he believes he's an A-list celebrity in desperate need of personal security, despite being homeless for over 3 years and unable to even afford a place to live. And it doesn't stop there. Daniel also believes he's well known enough to run for president, a claim that's earned him the ironic nickname from his fans, Mr. President.
Hello, this is Daniel Larson. I am planning on running for president in the future.
Now, what makes these delusions even more unnerving is that Daniel considered himself a celebrity long before the internet crowned him as an A-level lolcow. This inflated self-image fuels nearly everything he does. Perhaps the most infamous of these fantasies is his belief that he's been in a years-long relationship with singer Grace VanderWaal, despite the fact that the two have never spoken to each other.
This message is to Grace VanderWaal and to the fans. We are officially dating. Grace VanderWaal has told me to make this public. We are officially dating. So please, everyone, stay tuned.
The obsession became so alarming that Grace's mother, Tina VanderWaal, contacted Daniel directly and asked him to leave her daughter alone. He didn't. In fact, the Grace fixation became one of the single most defining and disturbing aspects of Daniel's online presence, showing up in countless videos. And yet, even this pales in comparison to his other behavior. Constant harassment of strangers, fights with innocent employees at restaurants, and an unmistakable predatory undertone that has become crystal clear over the years. Daniel Larson's story isn't just strange. It's darker, more complex, and more disturbing than most people could ever imagine. Daniel Larson was born on November the 15th, 1998, to a very young mother, Elizabeth Scheimer, just 22 years old at the time, and an even younger father, James Travis Larson, who was only 20. From early on, Daniel's unusual physical appearance, particularly his facial features, sparked speculation that he might have fetal alcohol syndrome, a permanent condition caused by alcohol consumption during pregnancy. Elizabeth's young age and probable immaturity at the time only fueled that rumor, though there's no concrete proof he has FAS. What is confirmed, however, is that Daniel has been diagnosed with autism, bipolar disorder, and, most debilitating of all, schizophrenia. His mother has even stated that he would sometimes hit her and his grandmother because he couldn't recognize who they were. As a toddler, Daniel often played with a neighbor's dog, until a tragic accident occurred. The dog impaled itself on a fence spike while trying to jump through, dying instantly. Daniel, of course, was too young to have done it intentionally. Still, the way he recalls it now feels unsettling and eerily detached. Maybe the earliest glimpse of the disturbing tone that would later define his life?
Did you guys know I am an animal? When I was a toddler, still in preschool, my neighbor had a dog. And that dog loved to play with me. I loved it when that dog got on top of me and rolled around. But that dog ended up, there was like a fence, right? And I was chasing this dog. And the dog started to jump over the fence. And you know, these sometimes fences have these little spikes on the fence. It went straight down, right through his chest and killed him.
Daniel has also claimed in multiple videos that his mother mistreated him when he was little. At first, this seemed unlikely. Most evidence suggested Elizabeth loved him deeply. But his grandmother later confirmed the did happen. In 2010, when Daniel was 14, Elizabeth and James split up. James saw Daniel as a lost cause, while Elizabeth still clung to hope he'd grow into a normal, functioning adult. That hope didn't last. She became neglectful and leading Child Protective Services to remove Daniel from her care.
So did your mom, no, not to bring up bad memories, did your mom you?
Whoever wins this point wins.
Just, I want to say neglectful.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
So,
and your grandma
growing
took you
up,
in,
I
right?
was moving house to house to house. So, if you know how homelessness is just bad,
yeah,
it was kind of like the same thing. I never had a place to call home.
That sucks, dude. I'm sorry.
Basically, there was a lot of neglect in my life, mostly my mother, and I was taken away from her at a young age, in and out of foster home.
He was placed in the Tennyson Center for Children, a foster care facility in Denver, where he stayed for about a year and a half. His story even appeared on a KWG and is an NTV documentary about the center. Shortly after, his grandmother Nancy Scheimer moved from California to Colorado to become his legal guardian, raising him from 2012 until 2019. Despite Nancy's guardianship, Daniel still lived off part-time at the center, with her visiting to support him. It was during this period that Daniel developed his lifelong obsession with becoming an actor or singer.
I like theater. I love to act. I want to storm chase when I get older. Hopefully I'll be on the news one day.
But even on camera, something felt off. In the documentary, Daniel, 14 at the time, acted like a child half his age, behavior that could be tied directly to his mental impairments. Despite Daniel being low profile in this era, there's one event from November 6, 2017 that stands out as a disturbing milestone, the first recorded act of violence from Daniel Larson, long before his internet infamy began. On that day, Daniel was charged with third-degree assault against both his wheelchair-bound mother, Elizabeth Scheimer, and his grandmother, Nancy Scheimer. According to Denver County criminal records, he was accused of shooting his mother and damaging property. He was found guilty and sentenced to about 45 days in jail, with his age and mental health issues taken into consideration. But as it turns out, this wasn't the first time Daniel had lashed out physically at his disabled mother. It was simply the first time the situation escalated to the point where police were called. What makes it even more twisted is Daniel's later reaction to the incident. When asked about it in 2021 after he became infamous, he showed no remorse whatsoever. In fact, he insisted that his mother deserved it, and refused to even acknowledge that what he did constituted.
I decided to push my mother out of the way one time when she cornered me when I was 18, and they called, and I went to jail for 45 days. But if my mother was the one that was me my whole life and never got in trouble, and I did one thing to her and went to jail for 45 days. I did one thing, she did like 150 things. She should be the one to get the blame. In the end, God has the golden rule, treat others the way you want to be treated. So she actually well deserved that one thing for what she did.
The claims that Daniel made in that video were extreme, accusations of neglect. But much of it doesn't add up. For example, Daniel alleged that his father forced him to smoke cigars. However, his father, Travis, had already cut off all contact when Daniel was just 10 years old, making that scenario highly unlikely. Adding to the contradictions, Elizabeth herself publicly commented under a YouTube reaction video by Papa Goot, stating, "Papa Goot, I am his mother. He lies. He went to jail because he hit me and his grandmother was dying." After serving his short sentence, Daniel was released back into Nancy's care. But even during this relatively quiet stretch of his life, his eccentricity was starting to show online. In November 2018, he created his first YouTube channel. While it only had a few videos, one in particular stands out. Daniel, dressed like a cowboy, singing loudly on the street, a strange yet almost comedic preview of the bizarre public performances that would later define him.
Candle, turn all the lights down low. Baby, let's just lose control.
For a brief moment, it actually looked like Daniel's life might stabilize. With Nancy and the Tennyson Center for Children working together, his violent outbursts were under control, and the many mental health struggles he lived with since birth were being managed. But all of that would change in July 2019, when Nancy passed away from cancer. That moment marked the beginning of an entirely new chapter in Daniel's life. The chaotic, unhinged era that most people now associate with his name.
Hello, this is Daniel Larson. I just wanted to say rest in peace to Nancy Scheimer, my grandmother. Thank you for supporting me with my career. See you someday in heaven.
In the aftermath, a man named Bob Proctor stepped in to try and fill Nancy's role. Bob and Daniel had met through a reading club, and Bob had also been close friends with Nancy, a connection that made him feel personally responsible for Daniel's well-being. Over time, Bob became not only Daniel's guardian, but also, in Daniel's own words, his music career sponsor.
Who funds your music career? If you've
So-
only made $400, is it Bob or?
It is Bob currently.
Yeah.
He did say he will do one more song.
Okay.
And so after that one, I will have to take over.
Of course, sponsor here simply meant that Bob occasionally paid for royalty-free beats so Daniel could record over them. Daniel's music, however, was nothing short of cringeworthy, bizarre, off-key, and riddled with the same delusions that fueled every other aspect of his life. Here's just one example. which honestly stands out as one of his better works compared to some of the truly unlistenable stuff he's uploaded over the years.
I just wish you weren't 1,000 miles away, but because I'll see you one day.
What's most fascinating, and unsettling, is that Daniel believed he was already a world-famous singer long before the internet started recognizing him as an A-tier lolcow. That delusion only grew when he began posting on TikTok in early 2020 under a now-banned account at Daniel Larson Fans. Even his username was built around the fantasy that he had a huge fan base running dedicated accounts for him, when in reality, no one was watching at the start. But Daniel's erratic behavior began attracting attention. He posted songs, made grand announcements about his career, and responded to every single comment as though it were absolute truth. And this is where things started spiraling. The trolls, who had not started as passive onlookers, shifted into direct real-life participants in Daniel's world. They made him believe he'd been signed to various non-existent record labels, a scam that played out over and over again. Each time, Daniel fell for it without hesitation.
Hello, this is Daniel Larson. I am signed with Party House Records and Interscope Records. I am not signed with any other record labels. For all my fans that think I am with a different record label, do not believe it. The only record label I am with is Party House Records and Interscope Records. Thank you.
From here, the antics escalated from harmless cringe to something much darker. In one instance, trolls posing as record label managers convinced Daniel to post a video declaring that he loves CP, which he did without a second thought.
Hello everyone, this is Daniel Larson. I love CP.
When backlash hit, Daniel tried to claim that by CPs he meant Club Penguin, but the trolls didn't stop. They kept inflating his ego, pushing his delusion of being a world-class celebrity to the point where, in July 2020, Daniel announced that he was running for president of the United States. This is where his now infamous nickname, Mr. President, was born.
Hello, this is Daniel Larson. I am planning on running for president in the future.
The presidential aspirations didn't last long. Just 4 days later, Daniel pivoted away from politics to announce the release of his very first music album. But by August 23rd, 2020, he was back to politics again, this time claiming that his earlier announcement had been casual. But now he was officially running for president. He genuinely seemed to believe that his small online following could put him in the White House.
So, in the year 2024, I'm going to be starting my presidential campaign.
This period marked the start of Daniel's true viral era. His TikToks began pulling in over 1 million views, and many began comparing him to Chris Chan, not because of any creative output, but because of his volatile personality, delusional statements, and unorthodox public appearances. 3 months later, in October 2020, Daniel had already become a recognizable name in certain online circles, and that's when something unintentionally hilarious started happening in his videos. The fog. Because of Daniel's uncontrollable temper, he once smacked his phone so hard that it permanently damaged the lens. From that moment on, every video he posted had a blurry, cloudy filter. Not by design, but by accident. Viewers flooded the comments telling him to wipe the lens or replace the phone, but Daniel seemed completely unbothered. He just kept pumping out content like nothing was wrong, even as the audience became fixated on what they jokingly called the fog. It became such a running joke that trolls eventually labeled this stretch of time the fog era. From the outside, it looked like Daniel had no clue how to fix it, and the blurry visuals persisted well into early 2021. Then a full year later, Daniel finally addressed it, claiming that his managers had told him to put tape over the camera and then remove it. Of course, nobody believed him, and the explanation only added fuel to the joke.
During the entire fog era, my entire management told me to put tape over my camera and remove it for extra publicity.
During this period, Daniel also began posting increasingly questionable videos. Some were absurd in a harmless way, like the time he posted his personal phone number online, announcing to the world that he was single.
Hello, my name is Daniel Larson. I am single. Please give me a
call at 720-812-4149 if you want a date. Thank you.
But not everything was lighthearted. On October 23rd, 2020, things took a much darker turn when Daniel went live on TikTok with two children who appeared to be under the age of 13, sitting together in the same room as him.
Alright, I'm live right now, guys!
During the same period, Daniel had been taken in by a family who already had a son and a daughter. The son's name has never surfaced in Daniel's lore, likely because he kept a low profile and distanced himself from the chaos. But the daughter's name, Brianna, would go on to become infamous. Daniel was given a room in their home and allowed to interact freely with the siblings, something that on paper might sound like an act of kindness, but in hindsight was a massive mistake. In one particularly disturbing livestream, the family's son was speaking to the camera when Daniel, clearly visible in the background. This wasn't just creepy, it was outright disturbing given that Brianna appeared to be far too young for such contact. And the fact that Daniel did this in front of a live audience made it even more stomach-turning, which obviously was as baffling as it was disturbing. But Daniel didn't stop there. Just a few days later, he posted another video where Brianna was sleeping in a bed directly in front of him, in a way that came across as deeply questionable. This understandably triggered outrage among viewers who had been watching all of this unfold, with some even speculating that Daniel might be the P-word. Unfortunately, this claim began to hold more weight as trolls started circulating more videos that seemed to further support it. One such example was a video where Daniel, while in the shower and shirtless, stated that he was going to make a video with his sister, referring to Brianna in a way that was both bizarre and unsettling.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm about to do a video with my sister. I hope you all enjoy. Stay tuned for more videos with me and my sister.
After this, Daniel tried to clear his name, but only made himself look worse by constantly contradicting his own statements. In one response, he claimed that Brianna was his half-sister, insisting he could never do anything inappropriate because of that. Yet in another post, he referred to her as a close friend, which completely undermined his earlier claim. The truth is simple. Brianna is not Daniel's half-sister. Both of Daniel's parents, Elizabeth and Travis, have long since cut him off due to his history of them, and neither would ever allow him to live with or be around their children. This makes Daniel's half-sister excuse a blatant lie, and the situation all the more unsettling. But it didn't stop there. Just days later, Daniel posted some of the most disturbing tweets of his known history, openly projecting his darkest kinks. Among them were comments suggesting Brianna would grow up to be a star, and even going as far as posting the hashtag #BriannaPeas. At the time, nobody had confirmed Daniel's alleged pee fetish, but that changed 2 years later in 2022, when leaked DMs surfaced of him openly admitting his fascination with pee. In hindsight, these tweets were a glaring case of Daniel projecting his fetish onto Brianna, making this just one of the many deeply disturbing things he's put out into the public. Presumably, Daniel ended up getting kicked out of the house. How could he not? And while it seemed like the Brianna backlash had finally died down, it didn't. In fact, it got even bigger and messier. People on the internet kept confronting Daniel about it, refusing to let it go. Daniel would soon be investigated by the police, but instead of trying to make any sense at all, or even addressing all those evidences that clearly paint him as the villain here, Daniel doubled down and started claiming that the whole thing is just a conspiracy against him made by a few people who want his life ruined.
He said 2 of your care providers came forward about, like, sexual assault or something, and you had to do a lie detector test?
So you know the young girl, Brianna?
Yeah.
What's very, very weird is they're having somebody, or they're claiming to have talked to somebody of the name of Brianna. Okay? From my understanding. And they're claiming that possibly, you know what I mean? Like there's zero proof, and it's just one person coming forward.
Yeah. Well, was there another person, too? Because I thought you said...
Exactly. And so, at this point, they have zero proof to go by. And if the Secret Service agent wants to actually have a meeting with the real Brianna now, you get her side of the story.
While it is obvious the police got involved in this situation, we don't know for sure what happened afterwards, but what we know is that the name Brianna will keep appearing again and again in Daniel's lore ever since after. Even 3 years later, Daniel posted a video claiming he wasn't allowed to talk about Brianna, possibly because the case was still under police investigation. But then came an even more disturbing twist. Daniel made a shocking post outright admitting that he had Brianna. The confession was both confusing and horrifying, until just minutes later he walked it back, claiming he had been blackmailed into saying it and didn't actually mean it. Given Daniel's history of blindly believing whatever people told him, the blackmail claim might actually hold some truth, but that doesn't clear him either. It's entirely possible that something did happen between him and Brianna, something serious enough to warrant silence, denial, and years of deflection, and that's what keeps this whole situation shrouded in uncertainty. 5 years later, it remains one of the most disturbing and unresolved chapters in Daniel's entire saga. Never fully explained, never fully forgotten. Daniel's also caught defending other known files like EDP-445 by saying this.
Hello, this is Daniel Larson. I just wanted to shout out the YouTuber EDP-445. I am sorry for the allegations against you. I am sorry. We are in this together. I have been there too. I hope we could possibly collaborate in the future.
Around this same period, Daniel made one of the most self-incriminating statements of his entire career, openly claiming that he possessed 500 megabytes of CP. A statement like this, if taken seriously by law enforcement, could land someone in prison for years. Given Daniel's behavior of being so gullible, at first many people took this either as a joke, or trolls make him say it instead of believing literally what he said. But this would be proven to be false, as days later Daniel's disturbing Pinterest account would be leaked by none other than Flexburger, a troll so well known in the entire Daniel's lore. You can see him as the music biz Marty of Daniel Larson. This account, under the username Hollywoodlers20, contained highly inappropriate images of young girls, including photos of Grace VanderWaal and Darcy Lynn, both under 16 at the time. To make matters worse, the Pinterest also featured disturbing content related to and the age of consent in various states. These accusations alone could have been career-ending for anyone, but Daniel's responses only made him look worse. In one instance, he claimed he didn't even know what Pinterest was, mispronouncing it as Printrest while visibly holding back laughter, making it obvious he was trolling.
Somebody was telling me of some type of social platform called Pinterest. Huh. I wonder what type of printer it uses.
As backlash grew, trolls arranged a Zoom meeting to confront him directly. They asked why he was re-uploading videos of underage girls to his TikTok and YouTube. Daniel's explanation? That a fake record label called Fine Dining had hacked him, a lie that fell apart immediately since he still had full control of his accounts. And even if those were hacked, it didn't explain the disturbing content on Pinterest, which had been created long before his online infamy or the appearance of these so-called hackers. Daniel then shifted blame to his own family, saying his parents were not trustable, and implying they might have made the account, another obvious fabrication. It didn't help that his Gmail and Twitter accounts shared the exact same name as the Pinterest profile, making ownership undeniable. When pressed to prove his innocence, Daniel was asked to search Pinterest in his Gmail and screenshot the results. He complied, but in the process, it became clear he had just deleted something before taking the screenshot. Minutes later, he finally cracked, admitting he did have a Pinterest account, just not the one in question.
Okay, well, I want you to go into your Gmail and type in Pinterest in your inbox. If something comes up, that means that Pinterest account would be yours. If nothing comes up, that means it is yours. Okay?
Okay.
So that would have been done if you deleted. Like you're saying.
Oh my god, he got caught!
Years later, Daniel would drop the act entirely, admitting the Pinterest was indeed his, claiming he created it to grow his audience through controversy. But this was essentially a half-truth. There was no hacker, and at the time he made the account, he was a complete nobody. Far from making him famous, the account only cemented one of the most damning stains on his already chaotic reputation.
I created the Pinterest as a way to go viral.
The Pinterest is a way. Wait, sorry, could you explain? Could you just repeat that?
Yeah, so I made the Pinterest as a way to go viral at that time.
Of course.
But the evidence suggesting Daniel's predatory tendencies didn't end with the Pinterest fiasco. One time, Flexburger, one of the more notorious figures in the Larson lore, leaked Daniel's search history, and it was as bad as it gets, packed with some of the most disturbing terms imaginable. Once that came out, people immediately reported it to the FBI, which likely triggered a formal investigation. Not long after, Daniel vanished from the internet for nearly 3 months. either because the authorities were on his trail or because he simply couldn't handle the public humiliation. That suspicion was confirmed later when Daniel himself admitted in an apology video to Darcy Lynn that he had dragged her name into the FBI investigation.
Hello, this is Daniel Larson. I just wanted to say sorry to Darcy Lynn for everything that has been going on. I know you were involved, and that's not fun at all to be involved in a investigation, so...
But what made it even more disturbing was the fact that Daniel had apparently tried to contact Darcy directly, even giving out his personal phone number, while she was just 15 years old. This crossed a line for many, sparking yet another wave of backlash. We'll save the full Darcy Lynn saga for later, but moving forward chronologically, Daniel made his online return in March 2021, marking what trolls call the end of his dark age. With his main YouTube channel terminated, he launched a new one on March 11th and resumed uploading, alongside posts on his other social media accounts. His opening content? Videos of himself asking strangers to date him, complete with his phone number on screen.
I am single. If you want to date me, please contact 720-812-4149.
But just a week later, Daniel declared he'd found his soulmate, and in a bizarre twist claimed it was none other than Addison Rae, the massively popular TikTok star and influencer.
Hello, this is Daniel Larson. Addison Rae and I are dating. Please stay tuned for further details. I can't wait for our future.
Of course, this was pure delusion. Daniel had almost certainly never even been in the same room as her, and in true Larson fashion, the relationship only lasted 2 days before he announced a breakup due to a miscommunication.
Hello, this is Daniel Larson. Addison Rae and I break up due to a miscommunication. Please stay tuned for more information. I hope we can stay friends.
This pattern, inventing celebrity relationships out of thin air, would soon become a running theme in Daniel's life. And it's exactly how his lifelong fixation with Grace VanderWaal began.
This message is to Grace VanderWaal and to the fans. We are officially dating. Grace VanderWaal has told me to make this public. We are officially dating. So please, everyone, stay tuned.
By this point, it was obvious Daniel had a disturbing interest in underage girls. His old Pinterest account already showed an inappropriate fixation on Grace VanderWaal, with edited images of her that crossed every imaginable line. In May 2021, Daniel decided to declare war on Flexburger for exposing the shady Pinterest account. But this would be a decision Daniel will regret forever.
Because of what Flexburger posted, we are going on lockdown. Everybody, we are going on lockdown. Stay tuned for what happens next. And Flexburger on YouTube and TikTok, you are for exposing me. We are calling the Denver Police Department and reporting you. The FBI will be coming to your house.
This declaration backfired almost instantly. Flexburger retaliated by posing as girls aged 13 to 17 and baiting Daniel into explicit conversations. Daniel took the bait, talking in detail about inappropriate acts he wanted to perform, not only with these girls, but also with Grace VanderWaal, who was just 16 at the time, and professional skateboarder Sky Brown, who was only 13. And then came May 6th, one of the most infamous dates in Larson lore. Flexburger convinced Daniel he was being auditioned for the industry and that it would help his music career. The audition required him to pull his pants down on TikTok lives, which Daniel actually did. It got him instantly banned, and the incident has been known ever since as May 6th. While it's easy to laugh at the absurdity, the truth is complicated. Daniel's severe mental issues make him an easy target, and the trolls, in this case, were clearly exploiting him for entertainment. You could make a case for feeling sorry for him here. Any sympathy quickly faded. Less than 24 hours later, Daniel was back on TikTok under a new account. And if you thought he'd learned his lesson, think again. He went fully on livestream again, this time entirely on his own initiative, proudly announcing that he wanted to make legal on social media.
Hello everyone, this is Daniel Larson. I have a audition tomorrow
for adult films. Thank you so much to everyone who is able to be at that audition. Thank you and have a great day.
It was bizarre, reckless, and a reminder that no matter how many times Daniel's humiliated, the cycle never stops. And through it all, his twisted fixation on Grace VanderWaal didn't just continue. It became one of the defining pillars of his entire online existence. Daniel would repeatedly claim in his videos that he was going to collaborate with Grace, a statement that turned out to be a complete lie. He even took it further by saying that he and Grace were dating in real life. The whole thing became even more ridiculous when Daniel started telling random people in person that he was dating Grace VanderWaal, and then, for some reason, instructing them to spread his words as if they were gospel.
Excuse me. I just have something I want to say real quick. If you know the singer Grace VanderWaal,
I don't.
Okay, so she was on America's Got Talent, and she was a winner of the show. I'm an upcoming singer, and we are going to end up dating. So if you could spread the word, that would be great.
What's your name?
Daniel Larson.
Okay. I will.
All right, thank you.
This fixation would soon spiral into a complete disaster, leading to a series of unforgettable moments, mostly fueled by trolls. At one point, they managed to convince Daniel that Grace and her father were both having a heart attack and they were in a life-or-death situation, which unsurprisingly sent Daniel into a panic attack.
This message goes out to the VanderWaal family. Please pray for the VanderWaal family. They're currently in critical condition.
After some time, the trolls escalated things even further by convincing Daniel that Grace and her father had died. This sent him into a tailspin, leading him to openly confess what he claimed to have done to Grace, and to accept all the allegations against him as true.
I admit to minors and Grace and sending Grace a pic. I'm sorry for putting Grace through so much stress.
He even went as far as declaring himself responsible for her death, saying she lost her life because of his inappropriate behavior toward her, despite having claimed just hours earlier that she died of a heart attack. Believing she was gone, Daniel admitted to sending Grace explicit images of himself into minors. But even all of this wouldn't have been quite as disastrous if Daniel hadn't followed it up with something even more reckless. That same day, he had a full-on meltdown during a live stream, demanding that the VanderWaal team contact him immediately and give him an update. He even went so far as to threaten to unalive himself. Since Daniel was banned from using TikTok and YouTube at the time, he was posting all of this stuff on a platform called Likey, which is why trolls later dubbed this incident the Likey Meltdown. And when he eventually learned that the entire situation had been fabricated by trolls, Daniel simply went back to expressing his love for Grace as if nothing had happened. But that wasn't the only time trolls convinced Daniel that Grace had died. On another occasion, they manipulated him into believing Grace is dead, and she wanted him to fulfill her legacy, which for some bizarre reason he interpreted as going around telling random people that Grace was dead, and that he was her closest person.
We're currently working where there's a celebrity that just passed away.
Oh.
Of the name of Grace VanderWaal.
No way, she passed away?
She just now passed.
Dude.
I was supposed to be collaborating with her, and her last words to me was she wants me to carry on her legacy.
Dude, no.
So I'm currently trying to carry on her legacy.
Besides this, Daniel's obsession with Grace didn't slow down. At one point, he even tried to prove that he was actually talking to her, only for that so-called proof to turn out to be nothing more than a screenshot of some random YouTube channel with the name Grace VanderWaal on it. He also demanded that the YouTuber Papa Gut make a documentary reacting to the so-called proof. You might wonder why Daniel chose Papa Gut. The reason, according to many in the Daniel Larson community, is that Papa Gut has a reputation for going easier on Daniel. Instead of fully calling out his actions, he often frames them as the result of mental health struggles. Because of this, a lot of people in the community have labeled Papa Gut as an enabler, meaning someone who encourages Daniel's negative behavior and self-destructive habits by making excuses for him or helping him avoid the consequences of his actions.
Hello, this message is to Papa Gut. Go check out my post that I did of the screenshot of the Grace VanderWaal situation and I. Please let us know your opinion in a video on YouTube.
Daniel kept making video after video, urging Papa Gut to cover this proof, but it never happened. Still, Daniel stayed deep in his one-sided, delusional relationship. This time, though, he leveled up, claiming that Grace would be running as his vice president in the upcoming election. despite the fact that this was in October to 2021, a solid year after the election had already taken place.
So, when I run for president, I am proud to say that Grace Vanderwall is going to be my vice president.
Although Grace has never responded to any of this, her brother Jacob once reached out to Daniel directly, telling him to stop the harassment. Daniel didn't take it well, spiraling to the point where he ended up in the hospital live streaming from there while attempting to unalive himself. But this is not Daniel's first time threatening SH when confronted about his behavior. In another time, Grace's mother, Tina Vanderwall, told him this in his DM. Stop saying my daughter's name. Stop saying you're in a relationship with her. You're scaring her and our family. Everything you have said and done has been in your mind. You need to access some mental health support and stop harassing my daughter. I've contacted the authorities and will continue to press the issue if you don't stop making disturbing videos. Your followers have harassed my daughter long enough. Stop! Presumably Daniel didn't take this well. He went into a spiral and said he is going to unalive himself. Whilst his crush for Grace would continue for long, even after this, Daniel actually had changed his fixation at one time during the year of 2021 into another celebrity, Darcy Lynn, who he was accused of for having her pictures in his old Pinterest account.
I have decided to break up with Grace Vanderwall, and I want this message to go out to Darcy Lynn. If you would like to date me, please reach out to me. I'm looking for a new start and someone with a great, happy personality who is very talented. Darcy, if you want to date me, please reach out.
Daniel's obsession into Darcy grew quickly from a call out for date to posting deeply disturbing stuff, not only because of how Daniel acts in this video, but also because Darcy was a minor at the time, and she wasn't the last underage girl Daniel was accused of targeting. Soon after his obsession with Darcy faded, Daniel randomly posted a call-out video directed at celebrity Jojo Siwa, who was also 17 at the time. While the video seemed somewhat random, the way Daniel spoke made it appear as though he was reading word for word from a script, raising suspicions that trolls had orchestrated the whole thing.
Jojo Siwa needs to stay in her own lane and close her legs. Maybe then she will actually be respected instead of a sellout.
Daniel also made another bizarre yet unintentionally funny video, telling JoJo she better be good at running because something big is coming. What that even means is anyone's guess, but the combination of his delivery and the absurd threat makes the whole thing feel more ridiculous than intimidating. However, Daniel's fixation on JoJo didn't last long. It quickly faded. Unfortunately, his unhinged behavior didn't. In fact, it escalated into something far darker. Around July 2021, Daniel began living in a house with a man named Jonas and his wife Miranda. Jonas was actually Daniel's legitimate case manager, not to be confused with the fake managers often portrayed by trolls. A case manager's job is to coordinate services for an individual across different settings, such as healthcare, social work, disability support, employment, and even legal matters. While staying there, Daniel lived in a pink-colored room that would later become infamous, because it's where he filmed some of his most deranged and unsettling content. One of the most notorious moments was the so-called toothbrush incident, filmed in mid-July 2021. As bizarre and disturbing as Daniel's past antics had been, this one managed to outdo them all. In the video, Daniel appears completely nuked in front of the camera, pulls out a toothbrush, slides it into his back, waits a few seconds, then decides to brush his teeth with the same toothbrush. The sheer level of secondhand embarrassment and disgust this evokes makes it one of his most infamous moments to date. What makes this even stranger is that Daniel claimed he did it to turn Grissel. Whether this was something the trolls convinced him to do, or if he genuinely believed it would impress her, remains unclear. Both possibilities are equally plausible. As disturbing as this incident was, it wasn't the end. Daniel went on to create more videos of the same nature, with two of the most infamous being the pencil incident and the bottle incident, identical in concept, differing only in the objects he used for his unhinged acts. And this wasn't the only time Daniel engaged in deranged behavior for the supposed purpose of impressing Grace. It got even worse when he posted a video of himself lying on the ground and saying he wanted to be with her. Beyond his so-called cringe videos, Daniel also began having random bursts of rage, throwing objects and punching the walls of his pink room. By August 2021, the room was completely wrecked. There's even a video of Daniel sobbing off camera while slowly panning around to show the damage. Despite being the root of the problem, Daniel shifted the blame onto Jonas, his case manager and provider, accusing him of causing every misfortune in his life. His resentment grew so intense it spiraled into paranoia. At one point, Daniel even convinced himself Jonas had poisoned his food, simply because it tasted bad.
I know why this tastes different. It's got something in it that's like sour as well. And if you look, it's got like little things in it. I don't know what it is. I've never seen that.
One of the most notable moments between Daniel and Jonas came when Jonas tried to take Daniel's phone. Daniel spiraled into a panic attack, convinced Jonas was about to harm him, and when in reality, Jonas was only trying to help. He had opened his home to Daniel and was simply attempting to cut off the trolls who used Daniel's phone as their main way of tormenting him. On top of everything, Daniel even accused Jonas of being racist toward him, an ironic claim, considering Daniel's long history of racism and his frequent use of slurs like the N-word with the hard R, which he openly admitted he had no problem saying. The irony cuts deeper in knowing Jonas is black, which would have given him every right to call Daniel the true racist in this situation. Yet instead of lashing out, Jonas chose to remain patient, helpful, and positive toward Daniel. During this time, Daniel was also posting multiple videos, claiming Jonas wasn't taking care of him, and that he'd be better off homeless. On the surface, it came off as deeply ungrateful, but the genuine misery on Daniel's face also made the situation look genuinely concerning.
To be honest, I think I was better off homeless. I was living better and I was at least eating.
Despite his constant accusations, claims, and open hostility toward Jonas, Daniel would sometimes swing to the opposite extreme, posting bizarre videos where he praised Jonas and demanded others do the same. In one especially strange clip, he went as far as worshipping Jonas, calling him his savior while randomly doing jumping jacks.
All hail Jonas! Jonas the king! Jonas the one! Jonas is the chosen one! All hail!
That same day, Daniel would make a video claiming some weird conspiracy that Jonas is part of the New World Order, and he is actually trying to recruit him. But obviously all of this wasn't true, and Daniel is just having a mental breakdown.
My care provider, Jonas, is a part of the New World Order and is trying to recruit me and Samantha into the New World Order.
Beyond all the disturbing events inside the house, Daniel was also getting into incidents out in public. On July 28th, he was caught on livestream having an altercation with a Walmart employee while shopping. The exact reason wasn't made clear, but Daniel was ultimately kicked out of the store, and from the looks of it, he had been causing a disturbance to other shoppers. As chaotic as the whole scene was, the funniest part came at the end of the stream. Daniel urged people to spread the clip everywhere, tagging major media outlets like CNN, and for some bizarre reason, he also wanted Kanye West to be notified, as if Kanye were his close friend who could intervene in his Walmart ban.
Whoever puts this up on YouTube will get a thank you comment. If you can also at CNN, that would be great. Please at, as well, Kanye West.
After leaving, Daniel doubled down by posting another video complaining about the ban. But instead of stopping there, he made things worse, claiming Walmart had accused him of touching kids, which he denied before he spun the narrative, insisting the real reason for his ban wasn't his behavior, but the fact that he's a celebrity and a disabled person. But after Daniel's so-called Walmart ban, YouTuber and Papa Gut revealed that the people who confronted him weren't even employees. They were actually trolls. As twisted as Daniel's behavior is, this stunt crossed into uncomfortable territory. The so-called managers were trolls interfering directly in Daniel's real life, pushing him even lower instead of just exposing him online. Barely 2 weeks later, Daniel claimed Jonas had dropped him, and that he no longer had a place to live. He also insisted he was in Los Angeles, but when viewers checked his location, it turned out he was actually in Oakland. From the looks of it, Daniel seemed completely confused about where he even was.
This message is for all the people who are wondering. My disability services dropped me, so I'm currently homeless, and I have moved to LA.
Although it is not clear why Daniel chose to move to Oakland, many people believe that he was manipulated into doing so by the trolls. And people on Daniel Larson's subreddit was baffled by what these so-called managers allegedly did. One post says, "All of the managers are lying on this Reddit. They told Daniel to go to California. They are afraid of the consequences that comes with their actions." What made the situation even worse for Daniel was that he had an upcoming court case, likely tied to the allegations we already discussed. And if he couldn't make it back to his home base in Denver on time, the consequences could be serious. So whether the so-called managers pushed him toward Oakland or he ended up there on his own, Daniel suddenly needed money fast. That's when he turned to TikTok live streams, begging viewers for donations so he could afford to get back in time.
Hello everyone, I have an emergency. I have a court case tomorrow, and if I'm not back, there will be a warrant out for my arrest. Please donate.
Unfortunately, this didn't work out for Daniel either, as his TikTok account was banned that very same day for unknown reasons, marking what was practically the 100th time he'd been banned from the platform in 2021 alone. With no money and no way of getting back to Denver, Daniel's closest friend at the time, Samantha, eventually managed to convince Jonas and his wife to step in and help. Thanks to them, Daniel was able to return, and this was confirmed after fans spotted him at the Oakland airport on August 24th, looking visibly nervous. Although Daniel had lied when he first claimed he was expelled from the house, that lie eventually became reality. He fled shortly after a chaotic incident unfolded on November 29th, 2021. During that time, his roommate Gavin, who, like Daniel, struggled with mental health issues, got into an altercation with Jonas and was overheard angrily demanding that Jonas call his mother. This incident only fueled Daniel's paranoia, making him even more on edge and prone to panic attacks. Chaos like this wasn't new in that house, but this time it pushed him over the edge. Just 2 days later, on December 1st, Daniel fled and moved into another assisted living apartment. But Daniel couldn't even last a month in his new home before ending up homeless. This marked the beginning of something far worse, because if Daniel was already a mess with a caregiver, it is not hard to imagine how bad things would get living on the streets with no support. And that's exactly what happened. His homelessness led to a series of chaotic incidents that not only dragged him further down, but also skyrocketed his notoriety online, making him more infamous than ever before. During this period, Daniel's panic attacks and paranoia escalated. His existing mental health issues, combined with the instability of living on the streets, caused him to spiral into frequent on-camera meltdowns, almost becoming a regular occurrence. It was also around this time that he began a feud with a TikToker named Chloe, who had more than 200,000 followers. Chloe became Daniel's first real-time victim, the first person he engaged in an actual back and forth with, unlike his previous targets. At first, Chloe had no idea who Daniel even was. She only came across him after he began spamming out of her live streams with comments claiming they were dating. But Daniel didn't stop there. He escalated by making multiple videos about her, including one where he disturbingly declared he was going to imprison her.
I am going to hate Chloe.
Confused by the whole situation, Chloe reached out to someone on Instagram for help. A screenshot of her DM later surfaced on the Daniel Larson subreddit, and it read, "If you can get it to stop, that's great. The story isn't that exciting. I didn't know who he was. There was a kid in my live trolling me saying, me and Daniel Larson were dating 2 to 3 months ago. That was the first time I heard Daniel's name because he kept repeating it. 3 weeks ago I started getting Larson comments, and I had no clue what it meant. Then people started tagging me in a fake Daniel page, and it kind of blew up the page like 15,000 from zero in a week. And then a day later, I'm getting sent to the video of actually Daniel Larson saying these things, and I'm in shock because I have never talked to him or about him. I just found out about him recently." But the back and forth didn't stop there. A TikTok account under the username at DanielLarsonMusic kept dragging Chloe into the mess, accusing her of impersonating Grace Vanderwall to scam money from Daniel. Whether the account actually belonged to Daniel or not was unclear, though many pointed out that both Daniel's main account and this one had gone live at the same time, strongly suggesting it was just another troll creation. By this point, it was obvious the entire situation between Daniel and Chloe was a troll-manufactured drama. And once Chloe realized what was really happening, she actually felt bad for him and tried to help, but Daniel refused. His judgment clouded by the same trolls who had started the chaos, and who were now convincing him that Chloe had malicious intentions. From there, the smear campaign against Chloe only escalated. Beyond the money-scamming narrative, trolls began spreading the idea that she was using him for clout. On the surface, it might have sounded believable to Daniel, but under any real scrutiny, it completely collapsed. Chloe already had her own following long before Daniel ever crossed her path, and it was Daniel who had latched onto her first, not the other way around. As one Reddit user bluntly put it, if you genuinely think anti-Chloe used Daniel Larson for clout, then you're literally just blind. She already had a following before, and I doubt she would want Daniel's clout. I saw someone say, she was laughing at him secretly on live. I mean, come on, it's Daniel. If I remember correctly, she was trying to help Daniel. I was in one of their first lives together, and I remember her trying to explain to him that everyone, literally everyone, was trolling him. She even tried to explain how his so-called managers weren't real companies at all. They were just kids. And that was exactly the problem. Chloe had been telling Daniel over and over that his so-called managers weren't legitimate at all, and that they were the very people making his life worse. Rather than sparking any self-reflection, this warning infuriated the managers. They went into full-on war mode, feeding Daniel lies that Chloe was dangerous, manipulative, and even part of some organized group dedicated to taking him down. This barrage of misinformation pushed Daniel over the edge, leading to yet another meltdown where he went on camera insulting Chloe.
We are cutting all ties with anti-Chloe.
Within days, Daniel escalated from meltdowns and insults to outright harmful behavior. He weaponized his audience against her, openly telling his fans to flood her live streams with comments. Things then crossed a serious line when Daniel, having been fed her personal information by trolls, read out Chloe's home address on a live stream, effectively doxing her in front of hundreds of viewers. This moment changed the tone completely. Chloe, visibly shaken and in tears, went leave to explain her innocence and how she had never done anything to Daniel, but the damage was already done. Fearing for her safety and exhausted from the harassment, Chloe completely stepped away from the situation and never engaged with Daniel Larson or his community again.
So this video is for the Larsoners. I don't really know how to give on an explanation. But I didn't know who Daniel was until this person came in my life and said anti-Chloe and Daniel Larson are dating. Then Reddit from the go came out with my address, my family's information. Logan was the only one that had my address because he was there when he leaked it the first time, 3 months prior. Now I don't know if these are his accounts, but there's literally like 20 TikTok with my address as their username. He's owned up to it before and said he's sorry he'll leave me alone, but doesn't leave me alone, and it's just bringing me a lot of anxiety, depression. So if you have any human decency, please leave me alone.
Besides the whole Chloe situation, Daniel had also developed another notorious habit, begging for money during nearly every live stream. With no steady income and being homeless, Daniel relied almost entirely on donations from viewers, and he was making some serious money.
Oh my god, my finances are skyrocketing through the roof. Thank you so much. Oh my god, I have made $5,000 in a week.
But due to his complete irresponsibility with managing money, even those donations weren't enough to keep him afloat. This financial instability pushed him into doing certain illegal things, most notably dine and dashing, the act of ordering food, eating it, and then leaving without paying. Daniel has been guilty of this on multiple occasions. He would knowingly place orders at restaurants despite having no money to cover the bill, then either leave without paying, post the receipt to his TikTok in hopes fans would send money to cover it, or tell employees that someone else, often Bob Proctor, a caretaker, or another made-up figure, would pay for it later. These stunts frequently ended with Daniel having to speak with the authorities. And to date, Daniel is documented to have dine and dash from at least 15 different restaurants, possibly more. At one point, he even openly admitted to doing it, though his math was wildly exaggerated. He claimed to have stolen around $50,000 worth of food, which is almost certainly false, since if that were true, he would be banned from far more than the small number of restaurants we know about.
I cannot hide this any longer, but from all my dining and dashings, I have probably robbed restaurants over $50,000.
But on May 13th, Daniel finally faced retribution for this reckless behavior. After attempting to dine and dash at a cafe, he was arrested on a petty theft charge, a rare instance where his long trail of unpaid meals actually caught up with him. It was a small charge in the grand scheme of things, but it marked one of the few times Daniel's actions resulted in immediate and tangible consequences. Aside from the dine and dash incident, Daniel was also frequently spotted glued to his phone, almost all day, every day. The most notable, and perhaps unintentionally hilarious example of this came during his participation in the Denver Colfax Marathon. This annual race is a major competitive event in the Denver metropolitan area where Daniel lives, and on May 24th, Daniel made the surprising announcement that he was going to take part. At first, it seemed like just another outlandish claim, but Daniel was actually somewhat athletic before his social media notoriety, so there was a chance he could pull it off. Sure enough, he not only participated, but managed to finish the race, placing 165th out of 166 in his division of 20 to 29-year-old men. His pace indicated that he never ran faster than a light jog, and nearly every photo of him during the event showed him holding his phone, likely interacting with fans mid-race. After crossing the finish line, Daniel uploaded a video saying this.
Gotta love the marathon because I myself.
Strangely, he appeared barely sweaty, which made his completion of the marathon all the more mysterious given his circumstances. Homelessness, a lack of training, and poor health at the time. Even though he finished second to last, the fact that he was able to complete a full marathon under those conditions was, in its own way, impressive. Unfortunately, it's an achievement he would likely never be able to repeat, largely due to his worsening health, particularly a severe case of trench foot. After living on the streets for months, Daniel's feet had been constantly exposed to moisture, leading to this painful condition. On August 4th, 2022, he uploaded a video from a hospital bed wearing a mask, cryptically warning about a terrorist attack in the Indian city of Pulwama.
Hello everyone, there was just a tourist attack in Pulwama. Pulwama, I hope I'm saying that correctly, Pulwama. There has been a tourist attack. I will try to give updates on it.
He ignored all questions in the comments about why he was hospitalized, only revealing a year later in another hospital video that he had been diagnosed with trench foot. In his own words, Daniel explained, "Trench foot is a condition where your foot sweats or gets wet, and it doesn't breathe. Over time, your foot gets spongy versus your skin being normal, and it creates massive amounts of pain. And here's the thing. As ridiculous as that phrasing sounds, he's actually not wrong. Prolonged moisture and lack of ventilation really do damage the skin and underlying tissue, and a spongy texture is a legitimate symptom. It's just that Daniel's delivery makes it sound less like a medical explanation, and more like someone trying to explain anatomy after skimming a Wikipedia article." Besides the marathon example, Daniel has also gotten himself into trouble over his constant need to charge his phone. With no home, he often loitered in restaurants or other public spaces to use their outlets, which occasionally led to staff confrontations. When no public receptacle was available, he sometimes resorted to trespassing on private property, a habit that quickly caused problems. One such incident occurred on May 12, 2022, when Daniel decided to charge his phone on someone's private property. When the homeowner discovered him, they became furious, told Daniel to leave, and called the police after he refused to comply. Instead of diffusing the situation, Daniel had a full-blown meltdown, shouting a racial slur at the property owner.
The reason why he said that I said that word, I'm not going to say what it is, but the reason why is there's a previous video of me in a fight with somebody on their porch, and the police were called, and I used that word as self-defense. I'm not going to go into detail about it.
When a commenter later pointed out that using racial slurs is wrong, Daniel responded with, "True, unless it's because you are really scared for your safety." The statement didn't make much sense, especially considering he has used the same slur in situations where no one was around.
Curious as to what led to making that decision.
Right, that is something that people are worried may be affecting your reputation.
So he was talking. I mean, I tried being silent. You could see that in the video. That wasn't working. I tried talking over him. That wasn't working. So I had to do something that was going to tower above him to make him shut up.
Gotcha.
To where it was like literally, look at what you're doing. You're not, like, I don't know what you're going to do. I don't know you. You know, like, I had to get myself heard.
According to Daniel, saying the N-word was an act of self-defense, though it's hard to imagine how this could protect him from anything, especially when it only escalated the situation and made things worse. It was also around this time that Daniel unintentionally created what would later become a viral internet meme, his rant about Quandale Dingle. For context, Quandale Dingle isn't an actual person, but rather a troll who somehow got hold of Daniel's phone number and began spamming him with messages. Eventually, the non-stop harassment pushed Daniel to the point of making a video telling Quandale to stop messaging him. What made the clip so funny, and ultimately meme-worthy, was that while Daniel was angrily telling Quandale to stop, a loud buzz from an incoming message could be heard mid-sentence, almost like perfect comedic timing.
This is a message to Quandale Dingle. Please stop messaging me. Go to hell.
The sound, paired with Daniel's visible frustration, gave the video an unintentionally hilarious vibe, and it quickly spread across social media. Not long after, Daniel had another on-camera meltdown involving his phone, this time after ending a heated call with one of his so-called managers. in a fit of rage as he threw the phone away, only to realize seconds later that it was the only lifeline he had left. What followed was pure Larson chaos. Daniel panicking in the dark, frantically searching for the phone while still recording, his voice rising with genuine fear and desperation.
Where's my phone? Where's my phone? Where's my phone?
But even the phone-throwing panic was peaceful compared to what happened next, involving Daniel's then-case manager, Andrew. In the world of Daniel Larson, Andrew is the default scapegoat for nearly everything that went wrong. As Daniel's disability case manager, Andrew was an easy target for blame, and Daniel already had a long history of volatile interactions with his case managers. This particular incident began when Daniel claimed that Andrew allegedly told him he didn't need to go to court, regardless of what the warrant said. It was an absurd claim, and a transparent example of Daniel using Andrew as a shield for his own actions. There's no realistic scenario in which a state employee would advise a client to ignore a court order, but for Daniel it was the perfect excuse to skip his court appearance and avoid another failure to appear charge. Instead of showing up, Daniel decided to literally run from the law, retreating into the woods while live-streaming the entire escape. The footage was chaotic and disturbing. He was visibly enraged, yelling Andrew's name over and over, threatening to kill him, and unleashing a string of deeply disturbing insults.
You like this, Andrew? You like this? I'm coming for you, Andrew. I'm gonna kill you because of this. If the police find me, I'm gonna make sure you rot in jail.
Part of Daniel's ongoing hostility toward Andrew stemmed from something else entirely. Andrew's refusal to feed into Daniel's long-standing delusion that he was a well-established A-list celebrity in need of personal security. Daniel insisted he required bodyguards like any famous person would, despite not being able to afford rent, let alone a professional security detail. One moment in June only deepened this belief, as Daniel was approached by a small crowd who recognized him and asked for photos. The funniest part of the whole exchange came when someone in the group asked why he looked anxious. Daniel, completely serious, responded, "I'm a celebrity." The person shot back without missing a beat, "I don't think so."
Who are you running from? I'm a celebrity. I don't think so.
Later that day, Daniel uploaded a video explaining the mobbings, insisting that this was his real life, and that Andrew simply refused to believe he needed protection.
So I want to make this clear. That last video of me getting mobbed, corralled, fans putting hands on me, cornered up against the fence, and that video I just took. That's literally my real life, and Andrew does not believe it. And that's why I have the charges on me that I currently have, is because he doesn't believe, and I don't have security. I don't have protection for that.
By the end of that year, Andrew quietly cut ties as Daniel's case manager. There was no public fallout or dramatic firing, just a silent exit from a role that had become a constant lightning rod for Daniel's paranoia. But Andrew's absence didn't stop Daniel from bringing up his name in rants for months afterward, ensuring that in Larson lore, Andrew would remain a permanent villain in his ever-growing list of perceived enemies. But Andrew's exit didn't mean Daniel was without a manager for long. Almost immediately, another figure stepped in to fill the void, and if Andrew was Daniel's favorite scapegoat, this next guy would become his most bizarre partner in chaos. Ivan Nedeljkovic, better known online as OX, was a TikToker who originally built his platform by talking about disabled lolcows and exposing how trolls manipulated them into doing disturbing things. Daniel was one of his recurring subjects, alongside other figures like World T-shirts. But in the summer of 2022, Ox made a very questionable career choice, going from outside commentator to Daniel's actual manager. From the start, Ox's presence in the Daniel Larson community was messy. He wasn't just defending Daniel, he was defending him in ways that made people's jaws drop. His most notorious defense? Dismissing the allegations entirely, chalking them up to troll manipulation or Daniel's mental health issues. Even Daniel wasn't sold on Ox at first, but over time they began working together more closely, which in hindsight feels like watching two cars speed toward each other in slow motion. The inevitable crash came on August 2nd, 2022, during one of Daniel's Twitch streams. Ox, acting as Daniel's Twitch manager, decided to have a little fun if the stream hit a $100 donation goal. Sure enough, when the goal was met, he swapped out the CNN broadcast he had been screen sharing with Daniel for a fake emergency alert system warning. This wasn't some harmless joke. The bogus EAS alert claimed a nuclear attack was underway against major U.S. cities, including Los Angeles, which Daniel was within 300 miles of. The moment Daniel saw it, the confusion on his face was almost cartoonish. Within seconds, it flipped to full-on panic. He started frantically scribbling notes, pacing the room like he was plotting the world's fastest evacuation, then bolted to the hotel lobby to warn strangers about the impending apocalypse. When he found out it was all a prank, Daniel went from panic to unhinged in record time, and in true Larson fashion, his way of expressing that rage was to completely destroy the hotel TV. Because nothing says, "I've been wronged," like adding a property damage charge to your problems.
Ox. 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 Next time he does something like that, I'll send a to his house. I'll make sure he's...
Adding fuel to the already burning fire, Daniel was repeatedly using racial slurs on Twitch during this time. Paired with the disastrous and nuclear meltdown prank, it proved to be the breaking point, and within a day of the fake nuke incident, his Twitch account was permanently banned. That single moment nuked, no pun intended, their working relationship. Daniel fired Ox, went on a series of video rants calling him every name under the sun, and then, because of course, dropped a diss track. If you haven't heard it, imagine Daniel trying to sound menacing over a beat, but instead it comes off like a kid reading a threat letter during show and tell. It's the kind of thing you can't decide is more funny or sad, which honestly describes most of Daniel's career.
Ox. 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 Next time he does something like that...
While Ox had undeniably pulled some objectively bad stunts, the nuke prank being the most infamous, many in the community still argue that, at his core, he genuinely meant well for Daniel. And to be fair, if you watch some of their earlier live streams, there are moments where Ox seems patient and encouraging and genuinely invested in Daniel's well-being. But Ox wasn't the only close figure Daniel managed to turn into an enemy. On December 10th, a much more serious and troubling incident unfolded, this time involving Bob Proctor.
Get out of my car, Daniel! No! Get the hell out of my car! Damn! Get out of my car!
No! You don't understand! You don't... Stop!
Get
It's
out of
not
my
my
car!
fault! It's not my fault! It's
Get
not
out
my
of my
fault!
car!
As mentioned earlier in this documentary, Bob was a longtime family connection, a friend of Daniel's grandmother Nancy, and someone who had known Daniel since his days at the Tennyson Center for Children. But on this particular day, things spiraled quickly. Daniel received a phone call from someone pretending to be from the motel where he was staying at, claiming they would kill him if he came back. Naturally, Daniel took the threat at face value and went into full-blown panic. He called Bob for help, got into his car, and began frantically repeating that people were threatening to kill him.
The motel! The motel! The motel just threatened to kill me!
Get out of my car!
Stop! The motel threatened to kill me!
The situation escalated into a meltdown, and not just shouting. Daniel began physically himself, while Bob, clearly confused, kept trying to calm him down. When Daniel wouldn't listen, Bob's tone shifted, telling him firmly to get out of the car. For reasons only Daniel could explain, and likely never will, this triggered him into turning on Bob physically.
I'm calling the police! Ow! 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 Okay.
No, you're not helping me! You're not helping!
It's worth noting that Bob's in his late 70s. This was essentially on an elderly man who had only ever tried to help him. Yet Daniel flipped the narrative instantly, accusing Bob of trying to break his arm while he was the one launching the attack. Eventually, Bob managed to call the police, bringing the incident to a close. Incredibly, despite being Bob refused to press charges. It was an almost baffling show of restraint, a decision that says a lot about Bob's character, but also about the endless cycle of chaos that seems to swallow anyone who gets too close to Daniel Larson. But this wouldn't be the last time Daniel put his hands on Bob. The two had another altercation, this time over something as simple as live streaming. That day, Bob had been kind enough to offer Daniel a ride and even planned to buy him dinner. But when Bob asked Daniel to stop filming while sitting in his car, Daniel snapped. Acting as if he had some constitutional right to live stream inside someone else's vehicle, he told Bob he couldn't tell him what to do.
So I wasn't going to film, but since you have a problem with me bringing my phone in the car, okay, now I'm going to film, because that's my legal right. Okay? So, you're causing this issue to yourself. You are literally causing this issue to yourself. And I guess I will go without dinner now, because you have a problem with me even bringing my phone with me. Which is my legal right. You are crazy.
Things escalated instantly. Daniel threw hands at Bob, forcing the elderly man to defend himself. Eventually, Bob managed to push Daniel out of the car entirely. That was the breaking point.
Ow! Get away from my car! Holy hell! You ran over me!
After years of trying to help, absorbing verbal and now enduring 2 physical altercations, Bob decided to cut ties with Daniel for good. It was the end of one of the longest and most supportive relationships Daniel had left. And just like that, Daniel closed out 2022 in peak Larson fashion, a year defined by chaos, homelessness, and all the problems that came with it. Unfortunately, 2023 wouldn't bring much change. In fact, it started in early January with Daniel contracting scabies. Almost immediately, he began openly displaying the rash to his viewers on live streams, sparking serious concern from those in his community. But beyond his own health, scabies is highly contagious, making Daniel's next moves especially reckless. During this period, Daniel went to Disneyland, riding crowded attractions, and coming into close contact with countless people, including children. He also visited busy public spaces like Panera Bread and Denny's. It didn't take long for warnings about him to go viral on Facebook. One reading, "A man from Colorado has recently been seen in multiple places like Disneyland, Panera Bread, Denny's, etc., while making videos saying he has scabies. His name is Daniel Larson. He is homeless and has an online reputation for being a creep. Daniel has also been live streaming and taking pictures of children in places like Starbucks. He has been in the area for just around a week now and sleeps in parking garages. He has been in countless restaurants and public places over the last few days. If you see him, please call the police." Even members of his own online circle began expressing concern about the possibility of Daniel developing a deep infection. He eventually sought medical attention the night after visiting Disneyland and was officially diagnosed with scabies. The doctor prescribed him an $80 medicated lotion, a straightforward treatment that could have resolved the issue within days. Daniel went live on TikTok, received enough donations to pay for the prescription, and then chose to spend the money on desserts at the Cheesecake Factory instead. As a result, he remained untreated for weeks, continuing to risk infecting others while his condition worsened. But Daniel's deteriorating health during this period wasn't just the result of homelessness and poor hygiene. It was also fueled by the sheer number of physical altercations he kept getting himself into. By 2023, his online infamy had gotten so large that trolls weren't content to just mock him from behind a screen anymore. They started showing up in real life, which meant Daniel was having far more in-person run-ins. And if you know Daniel, that's a recipe for disaster. One such disaster hit on April 5th. While on a private Discord call with his fake managers, Daniel was shopping at a bodega when a group of trolls approached him. You could hear the irritation in his voice immediately.
Daniel. I've asked you to leave.
Daniel.
I've asked you to leave. We're on the phone with the police.
Daniel.
I've asked you to
Come on,
leave.
Daniel. You know me.
No, I don't.
You do. We're
No, I
friends.
don't. I'm on the phone with my security.
Then, for reasons that still don't make much sense, he shifted his anger onto a store employee, whose only crime was telling him to leave. In the Discord audio, you can hear people egging him on, telling him to defend himself, even though no one had touched him. That was all the justification Daniel needed. He started swinging at the employee, throwing punches like he was in the middle of a street fight. The employee, understandably, back, and a shove sent Daniel stumbling out of the store. Now here's the Larson twist. Moments after initiating the fight, he was outside claiming he was the victim, yelling that the employee had him. He ended up in the hospital with a bloody nose, bandaged up, filming himself in a shaky video from his bed, insisting that it was the trolls who punched him. The reality? They never touched him. The whole mess was 100% self-inflicted.
So, this is what I look like after I got by 2 fans in New York City in 2023.
In fact, his RL encounters only got worse. Because he was homeless, Daniel was traveling constantly. New streets, new towns, and plenty of opportunities for things to blow up. The most chaotic and arguably most disturbing came on July 11th, a date that would forever be known in Larson lore as the 7-Eleven incident. Despite having no home, no stability, and no way to even reliably care for himself, Daniel decided it was the perfect time to adopt a dog. He named it Music. This instantly set off alarms across the community because anyone who's followed Daniel for more than 5 minutes knows how ill-equipped he is to care for a pet.
So, I am thinking about buying a dog. Should I do that before the apartment? Yeah, we'll see. Maybe we could get a homeless Daniel Larson and his dog arc.
Multiple rescue attempts were planned, but the one that actually worked happened just 2 days after the adoption. And Daniel did not take it well. He was inside a Walmart when it all went down, and instead of calmly handling the situation, he went nuclear. In minutes, he had smashed and destroyed roughly $2,000 worth of merchandise.
Yeah. I'm not going to just end this. I will completely escalate this until whatever needs to happen happens. Right?
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand.
At that point, I hear security on the phone at the Walmart, the Walmart security, going like, okay, well, he's acting all schizo now. I don't even know what the going on.
Yeah. So...
Imagine being a random Walmart shopper that day. You come in to grab milk, and instead you're watching a homeless man in full meltdown mode demolish half the aisle while yelling about his dog. By the time police arrived and arrested him, the store looked like the aftermath of a minor riot.
What's going on, and then we can go from there.
It's this one.
Okay, here, I don't want to hurt your arm, so until we get figured out, we're just detaining you, all right?
Okay.
You just relax.
It was a perfect encapsulation of Daniel's reality. Impulsive decisions, emotional overdrive, and public destruction, all ending with police intervention. And the wildest part, this time it wasn't trolls baiting him or a stranger in a store. It was triggered by the loss of a dog he never should have had in the first place. The chaos of the 7-Eleven incident didn't stop at Walmart's broken shelves. In the midst of that meltdown, Daniel was also spotted making threats toward multiple people and groups, including the White House and the FBI. And this wasn't uncharted territory for him. Daniel had a history of making threats, even going so far as to call 911 and tell operators that he had a bomb and planned to blow up several locations.
I will your house till the day you die! Call the feds on me, you liar!
For Daniel, these statements were less about genuine intent and more about grabbing attention. But this time, he aimed his antics at the wrong people. His threats caught the attention of the United States Secret Service, most notably an agent named Daniel McDougal, who began closely investigating him. This marked the beginning of the end for Daniel.
The FBI is now investigating me along with the U.S. Secret Service.
At this point, the sheer volume of incriminating things Daniel had done could have put him away for decades. Normally, his mental health issues had earned him some leniency from law enforcement. But there's a limit to how many times you can play that card, and Daniel was well past it. And the Secret Service's involvement wouldn't be felt immediately, but a few months later, in September, his behavior would once again bring him face to face with police. This time, Daniel had been manipulated into believing he was officially enrolled at Colorado College, all because he had been invited to a fraternity party. Over the next few days, the students kept up the ruse, convincing him that he had received a full scholarship.
The CU University scholarship that I had, and still have, is a full ride scholarship.
6 days later, Daniel took the fantasy to another level. He got into an altercation with a campus security guard after insisting he had a meeting with none other than football coach Deion Sanders. When the guard didn't buy it, Daniel responded by punching him in the face. It was a textbook Larson escalation, an imagined status, a pointless confrontation, and a physical attack that led directly to his arrest. As police took him into custody, Daniel doubled down, loudly insisting he was a student at the college. Yet even after the Colorado College arrest, Daniel was released, and somehow managed to make things worse. Just 2 months later, in November, he found himself in yet another public altercation, this time at a Panera Bread. Witnesses described him as yelling incoherently, acting completely unhinged, and even attempting to attack an employee from behind.
Step back right now!
And while the incident in itself was disturbing, what really stood out to longtime followers was his haircut, the infamous reverse mohawk. In Daniel lore, this bizarre style became symbolic of just how far his mental health had deteriorated. Yet even with this public meltdown and attempted, there were still no serious legal consequences. That leniency would not carry into the next year. 2024 would be different, and possibly mark the end of the Daniel Larson saga as we know it. From the very beginning of the year, Daniel's legal trouble became relentless. On January 11th, he was jailed for several hours after getting into an altercation with security guards at an airport. Just 3 weeks later, on February 2nd, he was arrested for justice evasion, having repeatedly and intentionally skipped court dates. This time, the outcome was far more severe. Daniel was jailed for an entire month before being released on bond.
Excuse me, move. Hey, buddy, relax, Daniel, relax. You're under arrest. You got a warrant for your arrest, relax.
Okay.
Okay, relax.
But as usual, he learned nothing. Less than 2 weeks later, on March 1st, Daniel intentionally missed court again, leading to yet another arrest the following month in April. And this time, it wasn't just about missed court dates. He was now facing 7 separate threat charges, the same kinds of statements that had already attracted the attention of the Secret Service months earlier. To make matters worse, when Secret Service agent Daniel McDougal had previously searched Daniel's phone, he uncovered evidence relating to the long-standing allegations. As a result, these allegations were now officially part of his detainment. This time, Daniel wouldn't be walking out after a few days. Following his April arrest, he was jailed, and remains there to this day. As the months passed, his situation only grew more serious. In January 2025, while still in custody, his name surfaced in a disturbing way. A Nashville school shooter's manifesto listed Daniel Larson as one of their freedom fighters. There's no evidence Daniel had any direct contact with the shooter, but the fact that his name appeared in such a context underscored how far his notoriety had crossed into dangerous territory. Initially, Daniel was held in a small, relatively unknown facility, but just days later he was transferred to a much larger and far more infamous prison, Englewood FC, known for housing notorious inmates such as Jared Fogle and Thomas Lane. The move alone spoke volumes about the seriousness of his case, and yet, even behind bars, Daniel hasn't changed much. With only phone calls as his platform, he still managed to indulge in the same kind of delusions that have defined his public life. In one call, he claimed Taylor Swift had personally invited him to her Eras tour. In another, he said Donald Trump had told him he would be his vice president. What's telling here is that these aren't statements pulled from troll scripts or live comment manipulation. These are things Daniel is saying entirely on his own.
But that could also explain the collaboration that Taylor Swift wants to do, because she wanted me on her Eras tour, and I turned it down because I was homeless. And I really shouldn't have done that. I straight up told her, like, I can't confirm anything because you're not, showing yourself on camera, you're not doing anything. And so I don't know if I can confirm who you are.
Yeah.
And so I turned it down, and sure enough, I found out like a month later her Eras tour was actually a real thing, and I was like, what the hell?
As it stands, Daniel is highly likely to face up to 65 years in prison on threat charges alone, and that's without factoring in the long-standing allegations of now tied to his case. For years, Daniel Larson's life was a volatile mix of delusion, public spectacles, and escalating chaos, teetering between internet infamy and real-world consequences. But the line between those worlds has finally collapsed. If the courts pursue the maximum sentence, Daniel's story may end not with another livestream meltdown or troll bait stunt, but with decades spent behind the walls of a federal prison, a place where no amount of grand claims or bizarre fantasies can change the reality he created for himself. From having meltdowns and then destroying stuff in multiple malls and restaurants.
Dude's freaking out. Holy shit! Hey, someone get security, this guy's freaking out.
I will fucking I never put hands on you,
to being exposed as a predator.
I admit that I am vile.
Daniel's behavior is as disturbing as it is deranged, and like every reckless lowcow who refuses to keep their filth off camera, Daniel eventually ended up in jail. The charges against him are so serious that he could be facing more than 65 years behind bars. But out of everything he has done, the very first incident that sparked the chain of events leading to his arrest goes all the way back to July 11, 2023. This moment would later be known simply as the 7/11 incident, the day Daniel made multiple terroristic threats, including one directed at the White House. Although it was obvious to anyone watching that Daniel could not take care of himself, let alone a pet. On July 9, 2023, he somehow managed to adopt a dog. He named her Music. Daniel claimed he adopted Music for security, fueled by his delusion that he was a world-famous celebrity who needed protection. He repeatedly insisted that Music was a guard dog, even though she was a regular house pet with zero training or ability to protect anything. Given Daniel's long history of delusions, violent meltdowns, and abusive tendencies, people immediately worried about Music. Not just that, but during this time Daniel was homeless, living on the streets, and did not even have the financial means to feed himself. There was no realistic way he could feed or care for a dog. This concern led people to call the shelter where Daniel got Music and explain why he was unfit to own any animal. But for some bizarre reason, the shelter showed no real interest in Daniel's living situation or in Music's safety. Because Daniel was infamous by this point, his managers or supposed managers told him to hide his location. This made it harder for the community to find him and made it easier for Daniel to keep the adoption a secret. But that didn't last long. A random fan named Kathy happened to stumble upon him in the street and posted a video. That one clip opened the door for the community to rescue Music. Because Daniel was homeless at the time, nobody could pinpoint his exact location, which made rescuing Music before something happened to her feel almost impossible. But on July 11th, just 2 days after Daniel adopted Music, a YouTuber named Goated Minds and his friends finally managed to track him down. Once they confirmed his location, one member of the group walked into the restaurant where Daniel was sitting with Music and pretended to be a vet who needed to examine the dog. Daniel believed the story, and they walked out with Music. Considering Daniel's history of extreme meltdowns over issues far less serious than losing his dog, everyone expected him to explode immediately, but surprisingly, he did not. He stayed calm and accepted it, at least for a few hours. Once reality settled in, Daniel broke down. Instead of causing a scene inside the restaurant, he went to a nearby Walmart and began attacking property, even breaking the window of a bus with people inside.
Alright, just relax. Just relax. We're going to get figured out what's going on, and then we can go from there. Okay?
It's this one.
Okay. Here, I don't want to hurt your arm. So, till we get figured out, we're just detaining you. All right?
Okay.
Daniel was arrested and held for about 6 hours before being released. That is when he began his frantic attempt to get Music back, which failed immediately. Daniel was already known for constantly calling 911, so when he tried to contact them this time, the operators were not interested in hearing his story. That is when Daniel made the decision that would come back to destroy his life a year later. Out of desperation, he claimed to have a bomb and threatened to bomb the White House if he did not get his dog back.
We have contacted security companies and they've all refused to work with us because they don't believe what we are saying about our popularity. I am done, and I will not stop until the White House is blown up. Okay, I ain't f***ing lying about shit. Bob, I need you to go live right now. I need you to make a social media account and put it out there right now that I am not lying, or I will kill you as well.
As disturbing as the entire situation already was, what made it even more surreal was Daniel's continued belief that he was a celebrity, even while he was having a complete public meltdown. Not long after this, Daniel claimed that Music was pregnant, trying to imply that the person who rescued her was somehow responsible. This was nothing more than a random accusation from Daniel, made in an attempt to frame the rescuer as abusive. He had absolutely no evidence for this claim, and not even the basic biological understanding that a dog cannot reproduce with a human. After this incident, a Secret Service agent named Daniel McDougal began investigating Daniel. He is the same agent who would later play a central role in the case that ultimately put Daniel behind bars a year later. Given the number of school shootings and terroristic threats across the United States, it is understandable why the government became involved. Daniel even talked on video about the same Secret Service agent, confirming that the investigation into his threats was very real.
And then the Daniel McDougal guy wants to think that I can make a bomb and I have guns and all that stuff. I might as well just get by one and then really prove it to them.
Despite everything that had already happened, Daniel would later claim that Agent McDougal started investigating him because of a supposed tax fraud he committed while selling merchandise.
I have legal stuff, legal issues with the merchandise up the whole, up the wazoo. And I'm probably not going to get the merchandise sorted out for 10 more years because of how much issues it's caused. That's part of the reason why Daniel McDougal got involved in the first place, because he investigates fraud, financial fraud.
Trolls made this even worse by impersonating Agent McDougal online, and Daniel fell for it almost every time. One of the funniest moments happened when someone commented under his video pretending to be McDougal and wrote, "Mr. Larson, I am sorry to inform you that we are now investigating you for tax evasion." Daniel instantly replied, "I will do my taxes, everything is fine." Daniel's final court decision for the meltdown took place on October 31st, a date that would soon become infamous, not because of the court ruling, but because of Daniel's bizarre haircut that he proudly showed on camera.
So, my inspiration behind this haircut, I wanted it to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger got struck by lightning, just like Albert Einstein.
This was not the only time Daniel had issues with the law during this period. On September 10th, Daniel posted a video claiming he had been granted a scholarship from the University of Colorado Boulder.
I might be getting a scholarship to CU Boulder.
Considering Daniel's complete lack of academic background, it was obvious this was not true, but Daniel fully believed it, and even posted on his community tab showing how excited he was. When people doubted him, Daniel tried to prove the scholarship was real by showing what he claimed was a student ID. In reality, some students who recognized him on campus gave him the ID as part of a troll. They convinced him that he had actually been accepted into the university and that he was now a legitimate student. These same students appeared in many of Daniel's videos during this time, and one of those videos included Daniel's rare interaction with a woman, where he kissed an unknown woman on the cheek while filming with the group.
Come on! Behind the picture, behind the picture. That's fire!
For a brief moment, Daniel was not completely isolated. He stayed in the dorm room of these students and seemed to enjoy having people around him, but the students were mainly interested in trolling him and getting attention online, and this short-lived comfort did not last long. Everything fell apart when Daniel crossed a line that even his friends could not ignore. On September 16th, 2023, just 6 days after his supposed enrollment, Daniel was arrested for third-degree assault at Folsom Field. He struck a security guard while trying to access the field. Daniel believed he was going to meet and join Deion Sanders on stage. In reality, a troll had been impersonating Deion Sanders and encouraging Daniel to trespass into the football facility.
Yeah, just take your backpack. You're not gonna fight us, man?
I'm not.
Okay. Let's take your backpack.
We are gonna put you in cuffs, so just until we figure out what's going on, okay?
Okay, and I would like to talk with you guys as well.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, we're definitely get
We're
your
just
side.
gonna-
So just for some safety purposes, we are gonna put you in cuffs real quick, okay?
849, stand by 1, we're good 5.
After Daniel was taken into police custody for the Walmart incident, he eventually appeared in court. He pleaded guilty to his charges and received a 12-month probation sentence, along with a mandatory anger management class. Of course, the anger management part clearly didn't stick, because only a few weeks later Daniel erupted into yet another meltdown, this time inside a Panera Bread, after a fan recognized him while he was eating.
I'm not putting hands on you! I'm not putting hands on you! Try me! Try me! Try me! Try me! Try me! Try me! Try me, bitch! Try me, bitch!
Although the exact trigger for the meltdown is still unknown, the most widely accepted theory is that a group of trolls had been following him throughout the day. The stress and paranoia built up until Daniel finally exploded inside the restaurant. Even though the trolls were responsible for provoking him, Daniel shifted the blame entirely onto the manager. His anger escalated even further once the manager said he intended to press charges. He had every right to, considering Daniel damaged property and repeatedly used the N-word toward him. Ironically, the manager was not even black, which made Daniel's insult land even worse. Despite the chaos being mostly self-inflicted, one moment in the footage stood out. When the manager briefly turned his back, Daniel immediately stopped screaming, stepped forward, and raised his hands as if preparing to attack. That single movement made it clear that Daniel could be physically dangerous if given any opportunity.
Step back right now! I never assaulted you!
At this point, some people might be tempted to excuse Daniel's behavior by pointing to his mental health issues. Others might blame the judges who kept giving him leniency, or the institution that repeatedly released him. But what Daniel did after security arrived in Panera, Bread makes those excuses much harder to defend. When questioned about what happened, he refused to take any responsibility. Instead, he tried to gaslight both the manager and the security guard. Even though he was clearly seen trying to throw a table at the manager, he later insisted he was only moving the tables to protect himself, and that the manager was the one being aggressive.
I want to make sure you're safe.
No, you don't. You want to press charges. You've already stated that.
Threw a table at.
I never threw a table at you. You were across the room.
I can go right fucking to hell!
You are standing right where you stand, right now. I just moved the table to try to create a barrier so you couldn't put hands on me. I have my lawyers ready to leak this all over the internet.
Legally, Daniel's actions should have been enough to place him in a psychiatric facility or at least result in more serious charges. Instead, he walked away with nothing more than a ban from the restaurant, but Daniel was not done. After being released later that same day, he went right back to making terroristic threats, exactly as he had done before. He even made a threat of murder toward Bob, one of the only people in his life who genuinely tried to help him.
I want to have Bob. I want to have Bob murdered. I want to have his house bombed.
Considering Daniel was already being monitored by the Secret Service, this behavior only put him in a worse position. Instead of trying to stay under the radar, he made things worse by telling Agent McDougal an incriminating story about a previous incident. McDougal was already tracking Daniel closely, and this admission only tightened the investigation.
So, one of the people that was impersonating to be Grace Vanderwall did send me video verification, but the video verification that they sent me was a photo of a child. When I tried to save that for investigation to show to Daniel McDougal, the Secret Service agent, actually saw it on my phone and didn't believe my story at all, and actually decided that he was going to confiscate my phone, so I might be charged for child pornography now.
If you have watched even a few Larson videos, it is impossible to miss his obsession with Grace Vanderwall. Throughout the years, Daniel has claimed to be in a relationship with Grace, to have gotten engaged to her, and even to have broken up with her, all without ever meeting her. Every one of these interactions was a troll impersonating Grace, and Daniel fell for it every single time. The most disturbing part came when Daniel admitted he sent inappropriate pictures to someone he believed was Grace, who he also believed was a minor. Then on December 10th, 2023, Daniel fell for yet another fake Grace account and had a massive meltdown afterward. This one went viral to the point where even large TikTok creators like Noah Glenn Carter covered it.
Daniel Larson might be facing serious time after what he just did at an Olive Garden. Well, after what happened last night, this wild life that Daniel has been living might finally come to an end.
Fueled by a manager-fed delusion, Daniel then attempted to book a reservation at an Olive Garden in Denver for himself, Grace Vanderwall, and several other celebrities he believed he was in contact with. The situation spiraled quickly. He was trespassed from the restaurant after repeatedly being told not to film, causing a scene inside, yelling profanity at the staff, attempting a citizen's arrest on everyone present, and even accusing the manager of printing out his nudes.
You guys were back in the back printing off my nudes off of a website.
I'm performing a citizen's arrest, so the FBI is outside.
Daniel was so deep inside this delusion that he genuinely believed Grace was being held captive by police outside the Olive Garden. He even presented a photo as a proof, but the image was actually from a widely circulated video of a blonde woman being arrested in Australia. What made the situation even more confusing was the fact that Daniel never once tried to go outside and help the Grace he believed was locked up, despite claiming she was the love of his life. While both the manager and several employees attempted to talk to Daniel calmly and pull him out of his paranoia, he refused to listen. Instead of backing down, he doubled down, and the situation escalated until he eventually pulled the fire alarm. Even after committing several crimes in one sitting, Daniel still did not face any meaningful consequences in court. As expected, he learned nothing from this and continued behaving the same way. His pattern quickly caught up to him, and the beginning of his serious legal trouble started on January 8, 2024. Late that night, Daniel uploaded a video to his YouTube channel showing himself yelling at an airport employee who was informing him that he was trespassed and needed documentation to return. Daniel uploaded the same video twice. First titled, "Hotel Security Claiming That I Am Trespassed Without Legal Proof or Paperwork by Law Enforcement," and then again, as Daniel Larson getting threatened and harassed by hotel security at Denver International Airport. The next day, Daniel went back to Denver International Airport by bus because he wanted to visit the Canvas Credit Union. He claimed his bank account had been drained by DLR Records and Entertainment, a story he often used to get sympathy and donations. This time, however, he convinced even himself that his account was truly empty. Although Daniel clearly trespassed into the credit union, he later denied this entirely when confronted by a security officer. He even shifted the blame onto the officer, insisting that the staff was treating him unfairly for no reason.
Hello, everyone. Yes, it is true that I got arrested this past week at the Denver International Airport. Yes, the security guard was harassing me. I was there to go to my bank, and I don't need to have a plane ticket if I'm going to the bank.
In the middle of the confrontation, Daniel accidentally revealed information about his probation status. He openly mentioned that he had multiple probation appointments, many of which he had already missed. This self-incrimination quickly caught up with him, because later that same day he was charged with 2 offenses. One was FTA, which means failure to appear in court, and the other was for a destruction of private property. By this point, Daniel's followers were convinced he was finally going to face real jail time, but in a surprising decision, the court released him on a special recognizance bond, which means they believed he could be trusted to appear for his next court date without paying bail. This was obviously a misjudgment given Daniel's long pattern of ignoring rules and breaking the law. His next scheduled court appearance was set for January 23rd. Despite being given such a generous chance, Daniel did not bother to call his probation officer or show up in person. What makes this even more ridiculous is what Daniel chose to do instead with his day after skipping his court appointment.
Hello, everyone. I am doing a fan meetup today at the Aurora Mall. $20 for unlimited pictures.
Daniel didn't bother to show up for about 2 weeks after this. Instead, he went on a side quest of trying to make money through a fan meetup. But the funniest part of this period was his college enrollment. Yes, after the last time he got fake enrolled into college and ended up arrested for assaulting a security guard, Daniel still didn't lose hope.
Going to start class anyway here. Share the PowerPoint for all of you for this class. Here we go. All right. So everybody can see that, right? Perfect. Yeah. All right.
I can see it. I can see it.
If anything, he seemed more motivated to learn, even though the material he was being taught was as fictional as the story of Texas's first king.
Now, the first king of ancient Texas. His name was Ashid Farad, and he was the first king. Now, that's important to remember, because that will be on one of the quizzes that we have next week. All right, so if you need to, take a screenshot of my presentation.
Daniel somehow failed to realize that Texas is a modern state that has never had a king. On January 22nd, 2024, Daniel posted on his YouTube community tab announcing that college is starting today. When someone asked him what his major was, Daniel confidently replied, entertainment business, most likely because he sees himself as a famous singer.
I am a singer-songwriter of Denver, Colorado, currently homeless.
It is still confusing how someone can major in entertainment business while also believing he is already a mega successful singer and songwriter. Despite Daniel taking all of this seriously, the reality was far different. This entire college arc was an elaborate scheme set up by his then manager Clark, along with other trolls, all designed to milk Daniel for more chaotic content. As if that were not ironic enough, these same trolls convinced Daniel that he was running for university president alongside a fake Chinese competitor named Chung. Daniel accepted this without question and fully believed he was in a real election.
We will be hosting our very own presidential debate. I'm club advisor Jorge Santos, and I'm thrilled to be your moderator for tonight's event. Tonight, we have a very special guest here to help moderate, former presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy. Our candidates are Daniel Larson, Chang Chi, and Ike Binns Schmetterling.
But this version of the college arc ended quickly. Daniel was arrested for a probation violation and spent about a month in jail afterward, making it the longest amount of time he had been incarcerated up to that point. On February 3rd, 2024, 10 days after he intentionally missed his probation appointment, a warrant was issued for Daniel's arrest. Before the arrest, Daniel went live on TikTok while panicking that the same police car had been following him around all day.
That's the third time I've seen the same police officer follow me. The local police, but
despite clearly violating probation and skipping multiple court dates, Daniel continued insisting he had done nothing wrong and that the officer following him couldn't legally do anything. Whether he genuinely believed this or was just trying to calm his paranoia is unclear.
It's not like they can do anything. They're not after me, I haven't done anything. So they can't legally do anything.
Either way, the police eventually arrested him while he was sitting in the Aurora Mall.
It's 6:82. We're gonna go ahead and make contact with him right now. It's hey buddy, it's okay. It's okay.
Relax. Just remember arrest. You got a warrant for your arrest. Relax. Okay? Relax. Deep breath. Calm down. We're good.
It's gonna be okay, buddy. We're gonna figure out the warrant, okay?
After detaining him, officers informed Daniel that he was banned from the Aurora Mall for life. One reason was that only a week earlier, Daniel had another meltdown there after someone sprayed him with fart spray.
Like a video? No. Wait, just try.
Bitch!
While doing that to anyone is obviously inappropriate, Daniel escalated the situation dramatically by destroying merchandise.
Dude's freaking out. Holy shit! Hey, someone get security. This guy's freaking out. So, hey, this guy's freaking out. Someone get security. He's knocking shit over. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Hey, back up. What the f are you talking about? You retard?
You filmed it! I don't care! You're going to jail!
Besides this, it is actually hilarious how Daniel tries to use the fact that security guards know him as a way to intimidate trolls from calling the police, when in reality he is known for being a constant problem and for violating multiple rules. Although everything he had done so far was already enough to lock him up, the police had one more reason to arrest Daniel. Only a few days before, he made multiple terroristic threats against Aurora Hospital.
I guess I'll plan a mass shooting on the place. Holy treat me that way. I'll treat him with disrespect.
On January 26th, Daniel checked himself into a hospital pretending to be ill so he could get shelter from the cold Denver weather. After being discharged, he was caught sleeping in the hospital lobby. When he refused to leave, he was kicked out and almost arrested by an officer.
Leave, right?
Right.
So we leave immediately or you leave with me now?
But
No, but leave or go with me, your choice.
Why would I go with you?
We're done, but because you're trespassing.
I'm not trespassing at all. I was a patient.
I'm not going to argue with you. You're trespassing. It's time to go now or you're going to end up in the jail. Your choice.
Even though Daniel really did sleep in the lobby, he later denied it, trying to twist the story to make himself look like a victim. He argued that he was actually a patient, even though he had already been discharged. Ironically, when the hospital employee confronting him said he slept in the lobby, Daniel immediately agreed.
Told you to leave the ER and you decided to go out.
And I did leave the ER.
Okay.
This is the cafeteria area.
This is not the cafeteria. You need to head to the bus stop.
This is.
This is not. This is the main lobby.
This is the main lobby, exactly.
It's not the cafeteria. But you're waiting for the bus. You need to be at the bus stop, waiting for the bus.
After being kicked out, Daniel became furious at the officer, but since he had nothing real to accuse him of, he began fabricating lies. He claimed the officer lied about him and told a false story, even though the officer never said anything except instructions for Daniel to leave the property. And somehow, Daniel's idea of getting revenge on this one officer was to threaten a mass at the entire hospital. Why, Mr. President? Why hurt innocent people just to avenge a single cop? Daniel also mentioned Agent McDougal again, claiming the agent believes Daniel has a bomb and a gun. Daniel then used this as his justification for why he needed to get a real bomb and gun so he could bomb both McDougal's house and Bob's house.
Maybe I should go to Bob's house and actually with a gun and a bomb and bomb his house. Because if he's stupid enough to not believe that this bullshit is going on, and then the Daniel McDougal guy wants to think that I can make a bomb and I have guns and all that stuff, I might as well just get by one and then really prove it to them. And then claim it on their stupidity. Because I have a right to defend myself.
Returning to the main timeline, Daniel was arrested by the Aurora Police Department and taken to Arapahoe County Jail. Unlike previous arrests, this one was more serious, and it seemed like Daniel might actually face real time behind bars. But instead of worrying about jail, Daniel was focused on something else entirely, his lifelong obsession, Grace.
So, I mean, have you been eating again well? Like, what'd you have for dinner tonight?
I've been eating fairly okay. I've been extremely concerned about Grace. And I want to move things forward with, but I need to be out and I need things to go smoother financially.
Being locked up did not stop Daniel from causing controversy online. He made multiple phone calls to his then manager Clark, who clearly did not have Daniel's best interest in mind. One example is Clark advising Daniel not to take his medication.
Did they put you on any medication, or are you still just taking the protein shakes?
Protein shakes, and I'm not on medication right now.
Okay, yeah, I mean that's probably best, to be honest. Some of that medication changes your mind, you know. I don't know what Latuda does, but I know you don't like it, so.
The medication in question, Latuda, is an antipsychotic commonly prescribed for people who struggle with schizophrenia and psychosis. In other words, taking it could have been a major turning point in Daniel's life. But because of people like Clark, combined with Daniel's refusal to acknowledge his mental health issues, things continued to spiral. Daniel also claimed he had been sexually assaulted by one of his cellmates during one of these calls with Clark. Although the allegation is disturbing and serious, it is difficult to take Daniel at his word given his long history of pathological lying. The casual way he talked about the alleged assault, almost as if it were a normal conversation, further suggests this may have been another attempt to gain sympathy from viewers. Only 4 weeks after being arrested, Daniel was released on March 1st after receiving a 1-year probation sentence and a $500 bail. As if this wasn't enough of a wake-up call for Daniel, he would go on to be arrested 2 more times for similar charges within just 1 month of being released from jail. One of these arrests took place on March 19th. According to a subreddit user who photographed the arrest, Daniel was at the Flatiron Crossing Mall in Broomfield, Colorado. In addition to the fugitive of justice charge, he also had 2 other charges, one of which was from a trespass incident on December 16th, 2023 at a Denver IHOP, an American multinational pancake house, where Daniel ended up banned for life.
So whoever called is not actually paying the check. It sounds like it might be too much.
Okay.
So the restaurant, they're willing to let you go without paying as long as you don't come back to this location. Is that agreeable to you?
That's agreeable. Can I get like a paper that states that by chance? Or
Sure.
okay, thank you.
We'll do that.
Just for company, I have to.
It's Daniel, right?
Yes.
Last name?
Larson, Larson.
On December 16th, 2023, Daniel ate at the Denver IHOP fully aware he could not pay his bill. He remained there for an hour after receiving the check, waiting for his management to pay for him. The server pleaded with him to pay because she wanted to go home and put her children to bed. She had already stayed past her shift just to deal with him.
The other manager called the cops, so I'm waiting for them to show up. Now.
No, you can pay your bill so that I can go home.
Well, I now have to wait for the cops as well.
No, you don't have to wait for the cops. You can pay your bill and the cops don't even have to come.
But I thought they were already on their way, so what is it?
I have no idea what it is. All I know is I really want to go home, and you're preventing me from getting my children into bed, and that really sucks. I was supposed to be home an hour ago.
Daniel, instead of showing any concern, laughed at her, once again displaying the disrespect he often shows toward people he incorrectly considers beneath him. Spoiler alert, she isn't.
And then I pay and then I leave. But then every once in a while you get a shitty waitress. I want my pay now. Give me a break. You guys are open 24/7. You have an online app. As long as I don't leave.
Eventually, the police arrived and allowed Daniel to leave without paying on the condition that he never return. Once again, he walked away with no real consequences. Only 4 days after his March 19th arrest, Daniel had another meltdown while live on TikTok. And shortly after, on his YouTube community tab, the exact trigger is unknown, but the fact that trolls were chasing him likely played a major role.
I'm being chased by a group of about 10 teenagers that go to CU University. The same, or one of the groups that attacked me a couple days ago.
At the end of the live stream, Daniel was heard saying that the FBI could sue him, and he didn't care.
The FBI can go ahead and press legal charges on me. I will just kill their ass.
It's unclear why Daniel mentioned the FBI at that moment, but ironically, his words would become relevant very soon. Only a month later, on April 29th, Daniel was arrested by the federal government. At the time of his arrest, the official charges were not yet disclosed, with the listed reason being courtesy housing for another agency. The following day, Daniel was transferred to the Clear Creek County Jail, where his mugshot was taken. Initially, many believed Daniel's arrest was tied to his multiple probation violations. In the days leading up to the arrest, Daniel had defrauded a Buffalo Wild Wings, and openly admitted to viewing exploitive material. However, according to a call made to his manager Clark, Daniel was actually arrested for the numerous terroristic threats he had made throughout the past year. This was later confirmed by court documents revealing that he was charged with 7 counts of threats, 6 counts of use or threatened use of explosive, and 1 count of interstate communication of threat, carrying a possible maximum sentence of 65 years. As mentioned in this video, Daniel had been making terroristic threats for years. Some estimate that the total number could easily reach around 100, since he started social media in 2021. These repeated incidents led federal authorities to begin investigating him, with the investigation notably led by Agent Daniel McDougal, a man Daniel even threatened to murder at one point. This arrest marks one of the most significant turning points in Daniel's entire life. He is now facing the possibility of up to 65 years in federal prison if convicted on all counts, or the possibility of being institutionalized for the remainder of his life. Many see this as the final breaking point, the moment Daniel's plot armor finally shattered. It also became the most publicized event in Daniel's timeline, with multiple social media pages and news outlets covering the story as it unfolded. To put it in a nutshell, Daniel Larson chaos finally caught up to him. After years of threats and delusion, he would be now facing real federal charges and possibility of decades behind bars. And as his future plays out in courtrooms instead of TikTok lives, that's where we'll leave things for today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.